Welcome, and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are on a listen-only mode until the question and answer session of today's conference. At that time, to ask a question, please press star and the number 1 on your phone and record your name as the prompt. This call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn today's call over to Ms. Leslie Gordon. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you very much to all the reporters and journalists who have joined us on the line. My name is Leslie Gordon. I'm with the U.S. Geological Survey. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you today. We have three speakers with us today. Geologist Wendy Stovall will be answering questions and giving a statement about what's new from the U.S. Geological Survey Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. Jessica Farrakane will be telling us what's new with Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. And meteorologist John Bravender will give a statement from the National Weather Service. So let's go ahead with our first speaker. This is Wendy Stovall. That's S as in Sam, T as in Tom, O, V as in Victor, A-L-L. Wendy Stovall, geologist, U.S. Geological Survey.
Hello, everyone. Today, the changes basically are at the ocean entry site. So Fissure 8 is still fountaining. However, over the course of the day so far, the fountain heights seem to be decreasing somewhat, but we have seen them kind of go up and down in time. But they do seem to be slightly lower over the past 24 hours than they had been in the previous 24 hours. And Fissure 8 is still feeding a lava channel that is reaching the coast at Kapoho. The bay is completely filled in, and the shoreline is now at least 0.8 miles out from its original location when before the ocean entry began at that point. Ocean entry is to the south of the main lobe now, and all of vacation lands, Hawaii, has been completely covered by lava, and there's only a few lots in the beach lots that remain on the north side. And it seems like, for the most part, the north side there's expansion on the north side of that lava flow, but it seems to be into the ocean rather than into the beach lots area. That's right now. At the summit of the volcano, we are still seeing small rock falls, lots of earthquakes, and some small ash plumes. There has not been a larger explosive event since yesterday, before this call. But we expect that larger explosions will continue at the summit. There's a pattern that develops as explosions kind of ramp up, or as activity ramps up to an explosion. There are more frequent earthquakes that occur, leading to some larger events, and then eventually an explosion happens. So we're actually expecting one to come within the next few hours. And those explosions are the ones that are producing ash plumes that can usually they reach between 8,000 and 15,000 feet above sea level. We also have a new live stream camera that is located on the tower at the Hawaiian Volcanoes Observatory. It's actually streaming directly to YouTube. So if people did a search on YouTube on the USGS channel for Kilauea Volcano live stream, you would be able to find it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. And it is a really cool video. I can attest to that. There's also a really cool video. If you haven't noticed it, everyone on the call should have received a media advisory shortly before this call began, and there were some interesting links to other interesting video footage. Our next speaker will be Jessica Farrakane. That's F as in Frank, E-R-R-A-C-A-N-E. Jessica Farrakane is the Public Information Officer at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park.
Good morning, all. Not much new to report from Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, except for a personal observation. I did go to the summit this morning to attend our morning operations briefing meeting at the Visitor Emergency Operations Center. And between 8 a.m. and about 10 or so when I left, there were 3 sizable earthquakes. I didn't check the magnitude. It's a beautiful blue day, but it really seems eerie up there. Lots and lots of ash covering areas near Jagger Museum. And the earthquakes just really make things seem very unsettled, literally and figuratively. And really, other than that, not much new to report. Status quo.
Thank you, Jessica. Our next speaker is John Bravender. That's B as in boy, R-A-V-E-N-D-E-R. John is a meteorologist with the National Weather Service.
Thank you. Good morning. Weather over the next few days, we will see a bit of a change. Breezy trade winds now, pretty dry conditions, as Jessica alluded to. An upper-level trough moving over the state that'll weaken the winds, turn them a bit more southeasterly, and also bring potential for some heavier rain showers, generally Thursday and Friday. Friday's also the day we're going to need to look out for some changing wind directions as well, as the low-level flow off the surface becomes more southeasterly. Normally the trade winds will blow any emissions from the volcano to the southwest across Kai'u District and wrapping around onto the Kona side. The winds turn southeast, might spread them more towards other areas such as Pahoa or upslope areas inland on the Big Island. That'll be relatively short-lived on Friday, and from later Saturday, and especially on Sunday, trades building back in, conditions stabilizing, getting back to more of a typical trade wind pattern. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our 3 speakers and their summary statements for today, and we'll go to opening up the phones for questions. I do ask that reporters please limit to your questions to 1 at a time so that more people can get in their questions in the 20 minutes that we have left. Another reminder to all of you that we've been doing these as daily briefings. Starting next Sunday, June 10th, we're going to go to 6 days a week, so they won't be daily. So we are skipping Sunday, June 10th, and then we'll resume again on Monday with these calls. And we may, after that, begin to do them less frequently as the situation changes on the volcano. So I think, Jennifer, we're ready to start with the first question, please.
Thank you. Just a reminder, that is star 1 to ask a question. Please make sure to unmute your phone. Please record your name and affiliation at the prompt. Again, star 1 for any questions. Please record your name and affiliation. And I apologize, it looks like my cue wasn't working, so if you want to ask a question, please press star 1 again. Okay, 1 moment, please. We have questions starting to come through. And the first question comes from Sherry Bracken from Mahalo Broadcasting. Your line is open.
Hi, aloha, thank you. Can you speak to the status of Hawaii County Beach Park down in that area by Ku'u Public Charter School and the hop ponds? Did you guys hear me?
Yes, I heard you. Wendy, is that something you can answer, or perhaps Janet can answer it? I know she's on the phone.
This is Wendy. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe the Department of Education would be better?
No. I'm talking about the lava flow. I'm talking about has the lava crossed the road down there, and I was just giving you a geographic reference, Hawaii Beach Park.
No, the lava flow, the ocean entry is still just north of the Kapoho tide pools. We're into the north part, essentially, of the Kapoho tide pools area. And the southern portion of the tide pools has still not been inundated by lava. We're not certain that it will, but that's where the ocean entry is presently.
Okay, so it hasn't crossed the highway right there then. Yeah, great.
The next question comes from Steve Gorman from Reuters. Your line is open.
Yeah, hi. I wonder if I'm looking at the map, but it's a map from yesterday. I was wondering if somebody can sort of, and just using the Kapoho beach lot and community and the vacation land communities subdivisions as sort of reference points, describe like how much of the area there is now been overtaken, covered, inundated, where you say by lava. Is it pretty much, does lava pretty much claim the entirety of both these subdivisions?
This is Wendy Stovall, USGS. Yes, that is completely correct. Vacation lands is gone. There's no evidence of any properties there at all. And then on the northern end of that, there are just a few homes in the beach lots area. This new flow and then the old lava flows from 1960. So there's just I can look at a photo and try to count the number from the last overflight, but for the most part, the whole area is.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The next question comes from Caleb Jones from AP. Your line is open.
Thank you. Last week when this flow was approaching Kapoho and vacation lands, I think that there was an estimate that it was moving at about 600 yards per hour. Can you speak to the speed at which it entered the neighborhoods over the past 2 days and kind of give us an estimate of how fast it was moving at that point?
This is Wendy Stovall, USGS. It was moving more slowly than that, for sure. That the rate that you were that you mentioned is like the rate of the flow as it was channelized, and that's when it tends to move more quickly. So what happened was it wrapped around the northern edge of Kapoho Cone and then started moving to the south. And as it moved to the south, it reached an area that was broadly low-lying, and so the flow itself ceased being channelized and then fanned out over the landscape. And when it did that, it lost some of the velocity, but it continued to move forward through those neighborhoods from that really wide, broad flow front rather than just more of a narrow flow front. And over the course of essentially 2 days, that entire area was covered by lava.
Thank you.
The next question comes from Michael Phillips from Weatherboy. Your line is open.
Hi, this question is for Wendy. A couple weeks ago, I had the chance to catch up with the meteorologist in charge from the National Weather Service's Key West office, talk about what Hurricane Irma was like there. And he explained how they were just a team of scientists. They were always working on forecasts, reports, and maps. But as Hurricane Irma approached, they knew their words in the reports and lines they drew on their maps had real-life impacts. And their work went from everyday weather stuff to major natural disaster work. And he described how they had a stronger emotional connection to what they were doing, knowing that homes and lives could be lost. And then they had to deal with the disaster themselves. He said afterwards, counselors were actually brought in to help the scientists cope with that disaster and recover mentally from some signs of PTSD. So with that said, how are you doing? How is your team? Is anyone personally impacted by the eruption? And is there any counseling or help going on? And is there anything the public can do to help that?
This is Wendy Stovall. That is an amazingly thoughtful question. I really appreciate you asking that. I can only speak from my own personal experience, and I am not in Hawaii anymore. I actually came back just a few days ago, and I certainly was in shock for at least a day, or what felt like shock. I kind of was unable to process what I went through, and I think that it will be something that sticks with me for a long time. Exactly right. Going from the science of everyday, talking about volcanic processes and then actually seeing them impact people and their lives in such a devastating way is it's overwhelming, to say the least. And as scientists, we often get blamed for not having any emotion, but I can tell you that we do. And all of this, everything that I see, since I've been back, it's really touched me personally because of some of the conversations that I had with the community at the Pu'u meetings that happened on Tuesday night. So that's my perspective. As far as other people in the observatory, yes, it's definitely impacted them personally. There are people who grew up in Lower Puna that work for the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory, so they're really seeing it impact their families and their lives. As it stands, there is no definitive, counseling coming in that I know of for sure, but we all, as employees of the federal government, have access to free counseling in dealing with these types of events. So, I'm sure that it's something that people will be seeking as they need, and maybe be encouraged to seek by their supervisors. I'm not sure. I am taking care of myself though, and I do know that I have to process what's going on. Thanks for asking.
With the hurricane, they knew things were going to end. In your case, you really have no idea. Is that troubling?
Yeah, it's a little bit troubling. It's troubling because we want to be able to forecast things, and we, we're kind of in this state where we just aren't. We don't have any. There's no certainty in our forecasts, and it certainly is troubling to. That's part of the process of coping with this and living with, a disaster in process. Is we have to take care of ourselves, and we have to try to take care of each other, and we have to take time off, which is something that we're all really bad at because we're so vested in the response effort.
This is Leslie Gordon. I can add something that there are actually laws and regulations about people working tremendously long hours without time taking off. And so there has been intervention from our safety and human resources folks. The folks at HVO have been working 24/7 on shifts for several weeks, and we are keeping track of that, and people are being rotated in and out. There are dozens of other volcano scientists from the mainland who are rotating in and out of HVO to alleviate some of that. So I think we're trying to take good care of our employees. Wendy mentioned that counseling is available to all employees at any time.
Thank you so much.
The next question comes from Dan Simon from CNN. Your line is open.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm wondering, with the lava entirely filling up Kapoho Bay, if you've been able to make any observations about the impact to wildlife and marine life. Thank you.
Hi, this is Wendy Stovall. So we received some similar inquiries about this type of thing, and there are researchers that are based out of the University of Hawaii, their marine biology program, and I can get their names while we're on this call, and I can give them to you in just a few minutes.
I have that information. Thank you, Wendy. We're referring calls on ocean sea life and oceanography and effects to Frank Sansone, S-O-N-S-O-N-E, who is a professor of oceanography at the University of Hawaii in Manoa. So please contact him. He's an expert on this issue.
Great, thank you.
The next question comes from Tom Callis from Hawaii Tribune Herald. Your line is open.
Thank you. Are there any signs of any other fissures becoming more active, or any signs that this lava flow from Fissure 8 might be becoming weakened in any way, or is it just remaining steady for the time being?
The This is Wendy Stovall from the USGS. There is no sign presently that any of the other fissures are becoming reactivated. And, yeah, we just have this fissure 8, which is the one that's remaining active.
And no weakening in that flow or any sign that there might be a breakout somewhere along that channel?
We had some overflows and breakouts that occurred yesterday, just down or right around PGV. Of course, they just kind of overtopped their channel levees and didn't get very far. So it is possible that those overflows or blockages in the channel could occur that would create some overflows in different areas. But right now we have a pretty wide open stream. A couple of sections are braided. There's some like lava islands that have formed in the river, as it were. And the fountain heights have decreased. So, we could interpret that to be a change in the flux of magma coming through the system, but it's still really impossible to tell. We do know that there's still lava flowing and it's still reaching the end and creating an ocean entry.
Thank you.
The next question comes from Steve Gorman from Reuters. Your line is open.
Yeah, hi. I'm sorry. I want to ask you. Somebody else I spoke with on the phone who I guess has property there said this flow of lava that came into the Kapoho Bay area was something. I think you all said it was like about a half mile wide once it kind of came out of the channel and kind of opened up into that flat area. But they said this thing was like 10 to 15 feet tall. I'm not sure people really realize that because the aerial footage you see doesn't really show that so well. Is that correct? Can you give us a sense of how dimensions of this in terms of its height from the the bottom of the ground, and therefore I would think then that anything that rolls over like a house would be pretty much buried. Is that right?
This is Wendy Stovall, USGS. That is correct. The lava that was entering the bay and that went through that neighborhood is A'a, and the way that A'a travels across the ground is that it kind of rolls over itself. It's often referred to as similar to a tread of a bulldozer. The tread, rolls over the top, and there's like a center area. And in the case of the lava flow, the center area is a massive, and there's a rubbly top that just kind of breaks off and falls forward, and lava moves forward as the top rolls off, and it pushes, it kind of rolls over itself. There was a video that was released way back at the beginning of this eruption that seems like a long time ago, of a car being consumed by an A'a flow, and so I don't know if any of you saw that. It seems to be pretty viral at this point, but that is the way that A'a moves, and yes, it will just, kind of break down and consume anything in its path.
And the question about it being how tall it is, it stands about 15, we're talking about something that's like 15 feet tall, like almost 2 stories tall.
Yeah, that's correct. It just depends on the lava flow itself. The front of this very broad lava flow probably had an undulating height along its entire width, but certainly taller than a person and perhaps 2 people standing on top of each other, one person standing on somebody else's shoulders, for sure.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, that is star 1 if you would like to ask a question on the phone. And we do have a question from Caleb Jones from AP. Your line is open.
Thank you. In terms of historical eruptions in the U.S. do any others come to mind where there's been this level of destruction in such a short amount of time, hundreds of homes in the course of 2 days?
This is Wendy Stovall, USGS. I mean, there have been other eruptions in Hawaii. Kapoho was inundated with lava in 1960, and then there was the eruption that happened in 1955. Maybe Janet knows the numbers of residences that were destroyed then. But then there's also the Kalapana eruption that happened, it was in the 90s for the most part, and the town of Kalapana was wiped out. over the course of that eruption. It lasted much longer. It was kind of an on-again, off-again lava flow inundating this town that lasted for many years. And over the course of those years, over 200 dwellings were destroyed. So this is not necessarily an unusual thing to occur at Kilauea Volcano, at least in historic time. Janet, do you know the numbers for the other?
Hi, this is Janet Babb. I'm with the USGS Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. So in 1990, the community of Kalapana was inundated by lava. It was a different situation, though, in that the lava that entered that community was produced from a vent upslope, about 6 miles upslope. The vent name was Kupainaha. It was part of that ongoing Pu'u East Rift Zone eruption. And so the flows took a while to reach the community, and then over a period of about, if I recall correctly, 8 or 9 months, lava flows continued to roll through the community. I don't have the table in front of me to know the exact number just in Kalapana, but in total, prior to 2014, when the lava flow threatened the community of Pahoa, there were 214 homes destroyed between 1983 and 2014. And then the Pahoa flow destroyed one home in 2014-2015 flow. Caleb, does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like, as far as it sounds like this is the most dwellings that have been lost, at least in Hawaii's history. And I know that there was some stuff on the mainland with Mount St. Helens and whatnot, but that was different, obviously. But so this estimate of, I think I read somewhere 500 homes. We'll not nail that down, but that would certainly be the most in any single event. Yeah.
Well, you should check with Hawaii County Civil Defense. They're the ones that are tracking the numbers of structures and homes lost by this event. And then we can also check our records here to see how this compares to past eruptions.
Okay, cool. I'll give you a call later, Jenna, if I have any questions on that. Thank you.
The next question comes from Michael Phillips from Weatherboy. Your line is open.
Yeah, I was trying to understand the historical context of the SO2 emissions, and I'm trying to piece together what's on your website. Am I correct in saying that SO2 emissions were pretty steady from the 1980s on through the Pu'u emissions, and then there was a spike when there was that eruptive event or the explosive event over at the Overlook crater that closed that parking lot there, and then that stayed elevated until this most recent development with the fissures where SO2 dramatically increased, and we're still at that level, or is there more fluctuations with SO2 over the last couple of decades?
Hi, Wendy Stovall, USGS. You are correct. I mean, on average, yes, that exact scenario that you explained is true. Pu'u had higher SO2 in the beginning phases of the eruption, and then once the fountaining phases died down and the eruption kind of leveled out to just being, an occasional lava pond with tube-fed lava flows going down to the coast, the SO2 levels decreased, and then they stayed relatively similar over the course of many years until 2008 when the summit vent opened at Kilauea. And then there were two sources of SO2 gas, the summit and Pu'u. And yes, as soon as Pu'u drained and the lava moved down into the lower East Rift Zone and fissures started to form there, just even the cracks in the ground started to form. And then when the magma started to reach the surface, SO2 became more prevalent, and we've certainly seen a pretty big spike in SO2, or at least a higher amount of SO2 coming out of the ground since the eruption has been ongoing in the lower East Rift Zone.
And early on, I believe in an eruption update you said it was, or someone said it was 5 times greater than what it had been prior to the fissures opening up. Is that still an accurate assessment of the volume of SO2 coming today?
They are still attempting to get some harder numbers. It's been difficult, especially at the summit, to get solid numbers on SO2 because the conditions to collect the gas measurements are very harsh. Trying to get those downwind of an ash plume is pretty difficult. So we don't have solid numbers on that, and then even getting SO2 numbers in the lower East Rift zone is also a little bit of a harsh environment because they're having to collect samples in pretty high SO2 levels. So there are pulses that happen that can cause the total budget of SO2 to go up to 5 or more times what was average, but the general number that I've heard is between 3 and 4 times the amount of SO2. And
then one more clarifier. So the volume of SO2 prior to this eruptive event was coming from Kilauea and from Pu'u, and today it's from the fissures, not the Kilauea summit.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
The next question comes from Tom Callis from Hawaii Tribune-Herald. Your line is open.
And Jennifer, do we have a lot of other questions in the queue?
Tom is actually the last one right now.
Perfect. Let's cut it off after Tom's question because we're at our 30-minute mark. Go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Oh, thank you. No worries. I hope this is a good question. So how long is the lava flow now, and what is its height in relation to the nearby topography? I understand it's elevated itself quite a bit as it's built up.
Yeah, the lava flows have elevated themselves pretty significantly. The channel is pretty high. I don't know the most recent measurements on the channel. Maybe Janet can get those quickly. But the channels are typically thicker closer to the source. So down closer to Fissure 8, the thickness of the lava flow is much greater than it is further away from that vent and at the location where the lava flow is moving into the ocean. For our volumetric calculations or for our volumetric estimates, we're using an average thickness of 4 meters.
Tom, this is Janet. Are you, by length, do you mean from the vent, the Fissure 8, where it's mounting to the coast? What length are you asking exactly?
Yeah, exactly. How long is it from source to ocean entry?
Okay, I'll get that number for you, but in the interim here, I also have Hawaiian Volcano Observatory geologist Carolyn Porchetta, who has been in the field quite a lot, and she can speak to the thickness.
Hey, Tom, this is Carolyn. So we've been measuring as best we can the thickness of this perch channel and the lava flow at different points along its length. And these estimates are certainly a minimum estimate or a minimum measurement, but near the vent, it's perched at least 12 meters or 12 yards tall. And then as you move towards the Pohoiki 132 intersection, it's about 7 to 8 meters or yards tall. And then towards the coast, it's in the 3 to 4 meter range, but it is, as that channel kind of slows down, the material builds up because it can't move forward, so it's kind of stacked up, and so that is thickening. Yeah, I hope that helps.
It does.
Yeah,
and the length of the flow?
All right, Tom, I'll have to get back to you. Would you drop me an email, please?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Our time is up. Thank you for all of those good questions. I always enjoy learning from them. Thank you to our 3 speakers, Wendy Stovall, Jessica Farrakane, and John Bravender. And we will hold another telephone news briefing tomorrow at the same time, 11 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time.
condition on the boat ramp. There was no way he was going to
Good morning, everybody. I got my crew over here, our rescue crew. So we just got back to Kilo Bay, ready to get docked up, but you know, just what was going on down there. The reception was pretty bad, so you know, AT&T doesn't have really good service down there, but you know, the whole, just to give you guys an update, the whole Waiaupai side of Kapoho is gone. Pretty much the whole Waiaupai, all the taipus, everything is all gone. Beach lots, the whole bay is gone. Lava extended out probably another 300-400 yards out to the ocean, past the entrance of the beach lots. But the north side, there's still about like a dozen homes left, which is northeast of Champagne Pond. So we still get some homes still intact, but lava is actually making its way that way also. While we were there, this morning we seen some homes being taken also. But also check this out, guys. We have Merlin. Merlin is back. Brought Merlin home. Mecca.
Yeah, right on.
So we brought home this dog. There's another dog we was looking for, but couldn't find him. But Merlin is back. So just letting everybody know, anybody, the owner of Merlin, can come pick him up at Suisan. We'll be here for another half an hour. So we just made it to Kilo Bay. And just to let everybody know, we've got Merlin. And lava is still pumping in Kapoho. From our vantage point this morning, we could see the fissure, and the fissure is still very much active. So just to let everybody know. Other than that, I gotta park this boat, so I'll be giving some updates later on. But aloha, everybody, and thank you for tuning in this morning. Aloha, and stay classy.